everyone, whether you're joining live or watching the replay, welcome to my page. If you haven't been here before, my name is Jess Etzel. I'm a mum of two, I'm a prenatal yoga teacher, and I'm a student midwife. And I'm a little bit nervous to jump on here today. For those who've been on my page for a while, you're probably used to me doing Facebook Lives about essential oils, which is another area that I have been, previously very passionate about sharing. And yeah, you've probably noticed through the content that I'm sharing that things have been more reflective of my professional journey that I'm on in becoming a midwife, which was my original intention behind sharing the oils, to incorporate them in ways that birthing mothers could gain benefit from. So I can see just a funny line, but hopefully it's all good. So today I thought I would jump on here and chat about the first of a few topics that I'd love to share with you guys. And this first one is, as a prenatal yoga teacher, I have a lot of people who come to me because they ideally want to have a natural birth. They want a non-medicalized approach to birth, and they come to me looking for skills to basically be able to do that, which is, in some ways a wonderful thing, that there's growing awareness and women are taking back power in birth. It's a really good thing that people are asking questions of if it's true, this concept of fear around birth, and that birth is painful and birth is something to be afraid of, and birth is safest if managed by someone else who is more experienced than us, like a medical professional or whatever it may be. And in some cases that's definitely true. So my intention for sharing with you guys is definitely not as any kind of replacement for medical care that you'd be receiving for your birth, no matter what model of care you are choosing if you are pregnant. But it's more just to start offering information so that you can start having discussions with whoever your primary carer is, really important discussions to be having while you're pregnant, and being truly informed, so that if situations arise during your labor or your birth, that you have the information to be able to truly give informed consent for whatever it is in your individual circumstance. So that's really my intention. I just want to share information and start discussions which aren't happening. So many women, especially women who come to me who've had babies before, didn't know what they were agreeing to when they went into a specific model of birth care. And then they ended up having experiences, not always, there's obviously many women who have beautiful birth experiences of all different shapes and sizes and colors. Like, this is definitely not about the way in which women give birth, as in vaginal birth or cesarean birth or instrumental birth. They're all beautiful, but it's more about women feeling empowered in their choice, and women feeling confident as mothers to then go on and be able to parent their babies, to meet their own breastfeeding goals, whatever they are or aren't, and all of that kind of thing. So today I want to chat about prenatal yoga. As I said, people often come to me looking for a magic pill or a trick, or just skills that they can achieve this natural birth that they've heard about. And so I just wanted to put a few things out there. So for those of you who've practiced yoga outside of the scope of pregnancy, you would likely be aware of some of the teachings, some of the things that yoga basically aims to allow us to practice. And yes, yoga is a physical practice usually, through yoga poses and asanas and flows and whatever type of yoga that you do. But essentially, if you hear your yoga teacher kind of sprouting on, you would hear similar messages of things like non-attachment, non-judgment, non-violence, and that's both to ourselves and to others. giving us tools to be more present, to end suffering within ourselves, to accept what is. These are all the teachings of yoga, which aim to enable us to truly be happy now. It's this notion of that happiness is not one day, happiness is now if we choose it. And that's not to be flippant about, that obviously different people have different things going on, but still that the answers are not outside of us, the answers are within us. So when we start translating that over to pregnancy, it really stays much the same. So one of the messages that I really try to get across through my teaching is not so much the way in which women end up birthing, but the way that they feel about how they end up birthing. So for me, in my opinion, what prenatal yoga, the benefit, the reason why prenatal yoga is so valuable and beneficial for a woman in preparation for birth, a woman who is, getting ready to have a baby, is that it allows her to practice those things: non-attachment, non-judgment, non-violence, being comfortable with discomfort, questioning internal dialogue within our mind. You're holding a pose and you really get to watch what's going on up here. And that's a really useful thing to be practicing for, during labor and birth, because we know, scientifically that the thoughts that we think influence the way that we feel, and that's definitely no different during labor and birth, and potentially even more so important, because the things that we think influence our emotions, which influence our hormones, and our hormones are what's driving the whole ship when we're having a baby. So prenatal yoga, in terms of birthing preparation, is not about having a natural birth, and it's not even about necessarily working towards that. Now, I believe that if a woman does have a preference towards having a natural birth, that there are certain things that can, certain blocks of information that it's a great idea that she's aware of, so that she can be making choices that are more in line with that, and increasing her likelihood of having that kind of birthing outcome. But more important than that is giving women tools and letting them practice within themselves the ability to truly feel empowered and okay with whatever is unfolding. So when we become attached to birthing in a certain way, and whether that is, a water birth at home with candles or whatever, if life presents us with a situation that looks different to that, if all we've ever done is visualized and practiced for that kind of scenario, which I'm not saying is a bad thing to do, but if that's all we have become okay with in ourselves, a certain outcome, that's what we feel comfortable with, that's okay in our heart, that feels like right for us. As soon as life presents us with a situation that differs from that, so, in birth, lots of things can happen, sometimes with little or no prior warning. And so, we need to be able to apply that same feeling of okayness and acceptance and truly non-attachment and judgment to whatever life gives us, in order to avoid feeling traumatized by our birth experience. And if we are traumatized by our birth experience, which a lot of women are, and we see that translating into all kinds of things, including, less confidence to go on and parent in the way that we intended to, lower rates of breastfeeding, and obviously there's other factors for that as well. But actually cases of, post-traumatic stress disorder directly related to women's experiences in birth. And, the data tells us that, and the studies show that this isn't so much related to what physically happened to the woman in birth, but whether she felt in control and empowered, and like what was happening to her was her choice or not. This is what makes the difference in us feeling traumatized or not. So it's less about what actually happens. It's less about the way in which we actually birth, because, you know, we know, and I see all the time examples of women who are birthing in all different ways that are so empowered, and, you know, to them, they have had a beautiful birth experience, and it looks all different ways: cesareans, instrumental births, forceps, vacuums, you know, breech births, vaginal births, you name it. Like, they are all beautiful, and the most important thing is that the woman feels empowered and like she is the ultimate decision maker in her birth. So that's really the aim of prenatal yoga. It's not about having a natural birth, although that may be the outcome. And if that is what the woman's preference is, yes, there are certain choices that we can make along the way that might be more likely to, you know, result in that kind of birth outcome. But it's more about truly learning techniques and tools within ourselves to be okay with whatever life presents us with. And that's not to say that we wouldn't go through grieving processes or feel disappointment and things like that, because of course we will, we're humans. But to be able to truly surrender, which is what birth is. Ultimately, birth is the surrender in the biggest way. There is no bigger way that you can surrender to life than to give birth. You fully give over your body either to the natural forces that are happening or to the medical professionals who, you know, for example, if you're having a surgical birth during a cesarean, you are totally surrendering to what life is giving you in that moment. So if we can practice becoming more intuitive, listening to our bodies, and truly surrendering moment and moment and moment through a physical practice like yoga, we then already have those tools so that when birth comes up, we know what it feels like within us and we know how to apply it to that situation. So that's where yoga, number one. The second side is probably a little more obvious than that, and that's a physical component. So keeping our body as strong, as flexible, and as mobile as possible during pregnancy is going to be of benefit to us during birth, during labor and birth, for the pure and simple reason. It's not about aesthetics or looking a certain way at all. It's just that certain positions physically, if you can get yourself into them, are associated with better outcomes. And that's what the data shows us. That's not an opinion. So active births, things like remaining upright where we can, things like squatting, things like being on all fours, these physical positions have different outcomes in the birth setting than a woman who is laying on her back. Maybe she, you know, has had an epidural or is being monitored, and that's a position that she prefers even. They have different outcomes. You know, one is more likely to require instrumental delivery. That's, you know, a woman laboring on her back is more likely to require an instrumental delivery like forceps or vacuum, and she is more likely to require an episiotomy than a woman who's in an active birthing position. Now, that's not to say that if you adopt an active birthing position that, you know, that you wouldn't need additional interventions in some cases, but the data shows that different things like that can directly affect the birthing outcome and the way that it goes. And just knowing that kind of information, which you would learn through something like a prenatal yoga class, can allow you to make different choices in that situation. So where possible, where it's comfortable and where it's safe, you might choose a more upright position during your labor and your delivery if you were wanting to avoid an instrumental birth or an episiotomy. So just things like that. So yeah, so this is obviously a topic that I am very passionate about and my knowledge base is growing in. And I did feel hesitant to kind of start putting myself out there because I was like, well, maybe I should wait till I'm fully qualified. But the reason why I've decided not to do that and why I'm just going to start putting information out there is because that's what it is. I just feel it's so important to share information with women. And there's going to be a lot of women who are going to give birth between now and when I am fully qualified as a midwife, that I feel that, you know, the more information we can share with women, the better. And as an advocate for women, whatever they choose during their birth, I just really believe that women should have all the information to be able to make an informed decision, and then I will 150% support her in whatever that decision is. So yeah, watch this space. This is going to be a platform for sharing more evidence-based information around birth. So yeah, if that's no longer your jam, then please feel welcome to unlike or unfollow. That's totally fine. I know that not everyone is in this space of birth and babies and pregnancy, and that's totally fine. Please don't feel obligated in any way. If there's someone that you know that is in this sphere who isn't following my page, please share this with them and, you know, get them on board, because I truly believe that the more information that a woman has that is not fear-based but evidence-based is really going to empower her and equip her to be able to have the best birth experience for her that's possible. So thanks so much, guys. Yeah, please like this video if you want to see more of this kind of information. Please share with pregnant mamas or friends, and I will talk to you guys again soon.